Hey everyone, my name's Walter, and I'm back here with another story from Reddit. Neckbeards are usually bearded gentlemen who use their intellect to get the ladies, but the beard isn't actually that important. The phrase goes back to at least 2005, when it was a popular description of something awful goons. Anyway, let's get into it with Neckbeard stories from Reddit. This story comes to us from Reddit Neckbeard Stories. It's also part 1 of a series, I think, so there's that potentially. Young Neckbeard desperately tries to kiss me, then proceeds to chase me home when I reject him. Hi Reddit, this is my first time posting anything here. Also, English is my second language, so feel free to give me feedback on the format of the story or any mistakes I might have made. So before I start describing what happened, some facts about me to make the situation more clear. I'm a tall brunette with brown eyes, and a bit more boyish demeanor. I love playing video games, fishing, etc. So not exactly a girl guys would be after that much. Back then I was about 13 to 14, suffering from severe anxiety, had regular panic attacks from pretty much anything that just happened to spook me. Even something as ordinary as going on a school trip. Yes, it was that bad, so I basically didn't go on any trips back then, just so I could be calm. And was extremely socially awkward. I'm still socially awkward today, but it's not as bad. Now I'm just your regular introvert who enjoys the safety of her room. I do feel like I would give way less information about my mental health if I was writing one of these stories. Maybe that's because I'm not anonymous, who knows. Now to the story. Our character will be me and Neckbeard, who we'll call Classbeard, since he was my classmate back then. We were both around 14 then, and even though Classbeard was young, he still had the defining features of soon-to-be one. Guy on the heavier side, smelled so bad he got in trouble at school for it, was a hardcore gamer, his words, not mine. Absolutely anime obsessed and always had chips and soda at school, never seen him eat anything else. Back then my country didn't sell Doritos or Mountain Dew, but you get the idea of his favorite food. He also felt entitled to every girl in our class. I'll get more into that at the end of the story. Now this happened in the middle of winter. It was late afternoon, but it was already dark outside. Nights get really long over here during winter. I was playing games as usual when my phone rings, and to my surprise it was a message from Classbeard. He never messaged me before then, so I was kinda confused, but also curious. It was just a casual classmate exchange in the beginning, but man, at some point he switched the topic, and in the end he basically asked me if I wanted to go for a walk with him. Not a date, just a simple friendly walk around the neighborhood. Because he had something important he wanted to tell me, and he wanted to tell me in person. Like I said before, I was extremely socially awkward, so I said no, but then he started to pressure me, and he even said he was already waiting in front of my flat. Yes, he was actually standing there in the freezing winter, just waiting for me to come outside. I should probably mention that the town I live in is pretty small, so most of my classmates were also my neighbors, so it was no surprise how quickly he got there. But it was still weird how he just decided I would go, even though I said no. After a lot of convincing, I reluctantly agreed and was not happy about it at all. Even my gut was warning me about the incoming disaster. My mom was also against it, but we both agreed that I should try to get out of my shell a bit, and we both thought we would just walk around the block and straight back to my flat building. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, because as soon as I got out, he set course for the town's fishing pond. I go there all the time with my dad, so even though it was a bit further away than I wanted, I didn't protest against going there. The walk there took us about 10 to 15 minutes. The conversation we had wasn't anything out of the ordinary, but the further we went, the more uneasy I started to feel, because he still didn't tell me that super important thing he just had to tell me in person. Eventually we made it to the lake, and I'm going to be honest, I was really creeped out at that point, and even decided to tell him I didn't want to go any further. He insisted on going just a bit further, and almost dragged me to a certain spot near the pond. The pond is pretty big, and on one side is surrounded by buildings and streetlights, while the other is near a small tree line with almost no lights. You can guess which side Classbeard chose to drag me to. So there we were, in a pretty dark part of the pond, in the middle of the evening with no one around. I got really scared at that moment and turned around to leave. I didn't care what he wanted to tell me at that point, I just wanted to be back home. And then it happened. Classbeard grabbed me and turned me around to face him. Then he proceeded to wrap himself around me, and no joke, all of my hairs stood up. I just wanted to jump out of my skin at that moment. He grabbed hold of me pretty tight, so it was really hard for me to move, even a bit. But at that point I was just frozen from shock, and when I came to, the preceding exchange happened. Classbeard, you're so pretty, m'lady. Yes, he actually said m'lady. Neckbeards weren't even a thing over here back then, and he still somehow came to the conclusion that that word was the most amazing thing he could say to a girl. Me, still frozen in shock, slowly coming through. What are you talking about? Let go of me. I was almost in tears at that point. I was so scared and felt the panic attack slowly approach. Classbeard, don't worry, I'll protect you. Me, utterly confused and afraid. What? Let go of me. At that point I started to freak out and yell. Unfortunately, no one was still around to hear it. God, I know we're talking about a teenager, but it's still pretty hard to believe he doesn't see how or why he's making her so uncomfortable with this. I also like how the internet isn't necessary for these guys to come up with a neckbeard persona. They were apparently always bound to gravitate toward the neckbeard and fedora and milady and all that crap. Then Classbeard, totally ignoring how I felt about it, pulled me even closer and leaned in to kiss me. At that point I just went full survival instincts, and the adrenaline from all the stress managed to give me enough strength to push him away. Just a little bit more strength and I would have pushed him into the frozen lake. I still regret not pushing him in for that. This might sound a bit awful, but trust me when I say it was well deserved. I feel like this guy learned how to romance a woman by watching Pepe Le Pew. This has to be the least romantic thing I've ever heard of with someone who clearly doesn't even want to be there. The second I got out of his hold, I started running home. And when I say running, I mean running. I never ran that fast in my life. But unfortunately, due to all the anxiety and stress, I had almost non-existent stamina, so the only thing that gave me the power to run was the adrenaline that didn't last very long, and I got exhausted pretty quickly. Not to mention I was wearing a pretty thick winter coat and was also a bit sick. Due to all these unfortunate factors, Classbeard managed to catch up to me. Luckily, he didn't attempt to grab me again, but still had the audacity to act like nothing happened and proceeded to claim he would walk me home because he didn't want anything to happen to me. I felt so disgusted. He was relatively quiet the rest of the way back. I was mostly speed walking and managed to keep a decent distance between us. For the last few steps, I managed to catch my breath enough to make a final run for it. My poor mom watched quite in horror how I ran to the door with the guy hot on my heels. She opened the kitchen window and yelled at Classbeard to turn around and go home. Bless my amazing mom for that. Classbeard got scared from that and turned around to leave. So she physically fled from the guy in terror and he still thinks he better walk her home? Sounds incredibly awkward. Though it's hard for me to imagine being outrun by a fat neckbeard. The second I got home, I just completely broke down and started crying. Mom got to me straight away and calmed me down. I spent the entire evening in the living room with her trying to process what even happened. Eventually I calmed down enough to go lay down in my room, and to my horror I looked at my phone, and what do you know, Classbeard wrote me a message. I was speechless when I read it, and here's why. Classbeard, I'm sorry, but this won't work out. I didn't believe him. We were never a thing. We didn't even talk that much before. I wouldn't even say he was my friend, because we barely spoke. Do you think you could ask your friend blank if she'd be interested in me? The second I read the message, I blocked him and wrote that friend, who's my BFF by the way, what he wrote me, and I also told her what had happened. Now here comes the part about him thinking he's entitled to every girl in the class. My BFF wrote me that he tried this on pretty much every girl in our class, but I was somehow left out of this conversation, so I had no idea he was doing this. Was a bit mad at my BFF and other friends for not telling me. Would have saved me a lot of trauma. This guy is definitely looking like he'll grow up to be a menace. He's a Me Too story for every single girl in his class. What a predator. On the next day at school, Classbeard pretended yesterday's events never happened and even ignored me. But I didn't really mind because I didn't even make eye contact with him. Till today, I never accept anyone's offer to go out after sundown because of this experience. After graduation, Classbeard disappeared from my life completely, and the last I heard he was actually arrested because he apparently assaulted a young girl on the street. So justice was eventually served for me, and all the other poor girls he tried to take advantage of. Hope you enjoyed the story. I never thought I'd share it, but after listening to a bunch of Neckbeard stories from Tim Tam Tom, I decided to post it. I've got a few more stories because it looks like I've got the worst luck on attracting neckbeards from my area. Especially 2 Neckbeard brothers from next door. So if anyone's interested in those stories, I'll be more than happy to post them too. Of course, you'll have to let me know if you want more from this person. Aside from randomly deciding on saying milady and dressing a certain way, neckbeards are also intrinsically able to pick out the perfect victim. A person known as beard bait. You know, it's usually someone who might not be able to stand up for themselves, like this author on the entire outing in general. Oh, and the English was fine, by the way. I don't mind if people make mistakes, as long as it's easy to read. And it was. Apparently there's a very unpopular deleted comment here. We can't look at it, but let's see how the author responded to it. I'm sorry, what? Yes, I have read it only for a bit, because I don't like having too many social apps, and it took me so long to write because I had to get the courage to write this. I'm never sure if I should share my private life with the internet, that's why it took so long. By the way, I never had Reddit before, so it's also taken me a while to figure out how to even add something here. Yes, it takes me a while to get around a new app. Sorry for that. Now the thing about English being my second language is true, and thank you for thinking it was methodical, because I study at a university to be an English teacher. I'm from Central Europe, by the way, so I take that as a compliment. Like I wrote in the story, I'm incredibly socially awkward, so even writing something takes a lot for me to do. I'm sorry if you think the story is fake, but it really happened. It was probably one of the most traumatic experiences I had. I still have pretty bad trust issues because of it. If you still don't believe me, I would be more than happy to provide the conversation between me and the guy. It's still on my phone somewhere, but this sub unfortunately doesn't allow photos. If you find my story really that unbelievable, and you still think I'm some fake account, I'll take the story down and I'll never post anything on this sub again. As far as I can tell, the author didn't upload any pictures, but there are a couple more stories about the Neckbeard and apparently his Neckbeard brother as well. Imagine your big brother's a total Neckbeard and being like, yeah, I want to be like him. Anyway, let me know what you think and let me know if you want more, because there is more. If you like the video, please give it a like. If you have something to say, make sure you let me hear it in the comments, because I do read them, and even respond sometimes. Big thanks also to my generous patrons who support me more directly over on Patreon. Let's shout them out today. Jimmo, Ennui Blue, Levon, Chef Casa, Jade Demby, Alberto 2001, Big Mike Shirley, Cho, Daniel Della Pena, Don Smith, Dev Notes, Dominique R., Ouroboros, Sammy, Sazandora, Skepticals, Wernology, William Ash, Zebrabird, Zephyrin, Bumbus McDunga, John Yorkie, Psychic Kumquat, Alex Anakin, Francois Tremblay, Knit1 Code 2, Lil Spoon, Molly Mayhem, and Stepdweller. Thanks so much again, it really helps me out. I'm going to hopefully be working a lot this month, so I'll see you all soon with more crap that I'll probably find on Reddit. Have a great day, everyone, and don't go on a walk with someone if you're uncomfortable with them, especially if you can't outrun them.